so high I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right.
All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Up in the Air.stream. And in this episode, we are going to be installing some new kayak mounts up on top of our Rhino rack. And I'll show you here in a little bit the Rhino rack brackets that we had up on our Rhino rack on our Armada. We've taken them off now, and we left the crossbars up there, but we're gonna move those back and kind of redistribute them a little bit. But we are gonna be installing a new product, and it's gonna be arriving tomorrow. So this is kind of the beginning of the video here, but it's called the LockRack, and it's a really neat product. I'm hoping that is going to work out as expected on our Hobie Lynx, Mirage Lynx boats. And as you can see, these boats, it's kind of a good, I want to take this video because it's kind of a good view here while they're laying on the ground of just how big they are. And these are individual boats, and you kind of ride up on top of them. And we took them out this last weekend to the state park up on at Caesars Creek here in Ohio, and just had a blast out there. And we have a lot of trips planned, in fact, one this coming weekend, and using and utilizing these boats as we're going to be hitting many lakes, Lake of the Ozarks, and also Indian Lake here in Ohio, Cohen Lake. So up in Delaware on the Scioto River. So just really about 5 more stays this year, and everywhere that we stay at, we're going to be putting these out on the water somewhere. So we were at Caesars Creek State Park here in Ohio, had a good time there. Do recommend that park. Definitely recommend getting a full hookup spot, and if you can't, I probably would pass on staying at that park. But if it is a nice park, and it does have a really nice kayak launch as well. So not to get into that too much, but with all that being said, the straps that we had on your traditional type rack, and like I said, I'm going to show you here in a minute of what I'm talking about, doesn't really work out with this particular style boat because it is so wide. It's almost like a stand-up paddleboard in that sense, and you can't angle them up. You actually have to have them flat for you to be able to really, if not, these boats just stick up in the air way too much and become really like a sail going down the road. So that I did not want. Now the problem with that is that the Armada is not a short vehicle. It is pretty beefy, and I'm 5'10", 70 inches, and with that being said, even with a stool, it is hard to get, because these boats being so wide, it is hard to get to the middle or even manipulate the straps. So I thought that it was a good idea to just go with a singular strap. Once again, a cam strap, not a ratchet strap, because you can do some serious damage on your boats with ratchet straps, and it's pretty much well known that you should never do that. So if you haven't heard that word or got the memo, never use ratchet straps on your kayaks. Always use cam buckle straps, because it's only your strength and no mechanical advantage that you can ratchet them down, because you can literally just ratchet metal into the side of the hull of your boat and damage it if you go with a ratchet strap and not realize it. So that is the point. But with that being said, we got back on the way back from Caesars Creek, and my single strap across the top that you kind of throw it over to the person on the other side, and then they connect it, did not work out, and these boats were actually kind of bouncing as we went down the road, and that was not good whatsoever. And I always hate those moments because it's embarrassing. You're with the wife and all that, and a safety factor. So that didn't work out. So we're regrouping as we go with these lock racks. So I'm going to be selling those Rhino racks. But we did do a little bit of damage to the boats here because they were bouncing around, even though originally my hooks that were connecting to the sides were not located where it could rub anything. They were staggered, and I'd put some soft straps here on the side. So I was talking about the damage. My timer went off on the phone, and so Yeah. So anyway, because of the fact that these were bouncing on the roof as the wind was catching them and trying to lift them, they were trying to make them go airborne, catching air. It did do a little bit of damage to them here, and then just the slightest amount of damage underneath the hull, just a little rubbing action as they were rubbing on the platform. So, all right, I wanted to show you the boats on the ground, and next thing I'm going to show you is what we were using, and then I'll get to the new product. All right, so as promised, I am going to show you what we did have on the roof rack of the Armada, and this is the Rhino rack, not the Pro kayak rack. They make two different versions, but it really doesn't matter. The other one just has a little more features to it, but they're pretty much still the same idea. Now these would normally, these actually are really quality, very quality product, and you can adjust them very easily just by throwing these latches here and then matching up your number indicators to articulate it up. And this would work good for like a smaller kayak, as I'd previously mentioned, but this is really the only way that I could do it and get them up there, the boats up there easily, was to kind of like lay these flat, and they really didn't do a good job at all. And that's what's kind of came to the point where we're doing you know, this LockRack, and hopefully it's going to work out well. If I take the video down, then you'll know it didn't work out well, and I'll wait and try this out before I publish the video, so that I don't mislead anybody. Underneath this is the box for the LockRack. It just showed up just moments ago from UPS, and so those are two sets that are in that box, and so that's what you'll expect. I'll get those out and show you what those look like. The other thing that I had thought about earlier was I had failed to mention the fact that another thing about using straps that is a huge downside is you are always risking one of those metal cam buckles or the hooks denting your vehicle, or even worst case scenario, flipping around and actually making a contact with the glass in a way where it actually shatters your safety glass of your vehicle. So that would be a very expensive fix, and so all kinds of things, you know, just you have to really take your time when you're doing it, and you're leaning over, and it's really just impossible in some ways to do it. And you know, it took me a while. When we were up at Cedar Point here recently, it took me probably a good almost 30 minutes just to strap it was 20 minutes at least to strap the boats down, which was ridiculous. And you know, it just really was not one of those things. And then you're up there and you're leaning backwards, and you're possibly falling off your stool, and there's a whole bunch of things that can go wrong. So, all right, let me get these lock racks out, and I'll show you those next. All right, so here is the boxes out of the big shipping box, and they must be out of small boxes at the eTrailer.com. That's okay, because I need that box. Going to be doing a project. We're going to be installing some custom cut rugs, rug material in the Globetrotter, and make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because that will be one of our upcoming videos. Let me flip this over. This is raw stuff here, guys. But anyways, so yeah, I'm gonna need that box to make a template for our custom rug. So I'll be doing a video on that if you want to check that out. But you can see the contents here. Pretty simple. And I looked at these pretty extensively before I decided to buy these. As you can see here, comes with, now this is the tracked version only, and so all you're going to get is basically the hardware with like your T-nut or your T-slot to go in your track. Now they advertise these to fit most type of tracked crossbars. I do not think these are going to work as they are with my Rhino rack, with the Pioneer rack crossbar to be more specific. So keep that in mind. That is what we're using, but you might be using a Thule or a Yakima rack or something like that on your vehicle, and it might work out just fine. But if you're using like a Pioneer rack like we are, I'll be showing you how to make that work as well. So I'm pretty, now that I've seen the hardware, I'm actually pretty confident that I have everything that I need to do this right from the get-go. So they do make two different versions. They make this version, and then they make another like universal version that comes with clamps so that you can clamp it to like an arrow style bar where it doesn't have a slotted rack. And then here is the keys. They give you plenty of these, so you can put them in multiple places with like a little hole for like a lanyard, so you can put it on your keychain or something like that, because you will need these just like a key to unlock the ratcheting system of the system here. And that, I'll explain that right away so I don't forget. So that is the proprietary key that you need to release the ratcheting system right there. So there's a lot of videos like more on like how they work, and this will not be really an all-conclusive install video, but I will show you some things along the way. I actually don't see any instructions, so maybe you can go online and get those, but pretty self-explanatory really. Not much mystery here on how this goes together. So that is the beauty of it, is simplicity. And as people had said, the rubber on this is of high quality, and it definitely is. It feels very industrial, like it's not going to be something that's going to wear out. But at the same time, it seems, to use a word, supple. It seems supple enough that it is going to not mar and grip the kayak itself. So, all right, we'll get to it. So before we get started on the install of the LockRack, and just also to clarify, this is the Universal Rack X is what we're installing. I wanted to show you the Armada in case you hadn't seen it before. The Armada, I mean, you know, obviously it's a very specific vehicle, and you know, you're probably going to have a different vehicle than this. But if you've navigated to this YouTube channel, because of the fact that we emphasize Air.stream, different aspects of Air.stream installation and destinations, then I do want to share this with you. And I didn't do a video about this, so don't go looking for it. But it is something that I decided to do mostly because of the fact that I had put basically rims that offset wider than the original rims, and then put E-load range tires on there. And I did talk about that in a previous video, but I was motivated. I was already had in the works or planned on putting some oversized mud flaps on the Armada because of the fact that I don't want to kick any rocks up onto the Airstream. Now the rock guards and everything else does a great job of protecting the Airstream, but at the same time I don't want to kick any rocks up onto it. So I do want to show you these. These were Libra, L-I-B-R-A on Amazon, and I'll show you a link. I'll put the link below, and they do a nice job. I mean, so it gives you that extra mud flap. More and more this vehicle is turning into, like, you know, something that is not something necessarily that I would have been keen to in the past, but I'm really digging the looks of it now with all the chrome. I was not a chrome fan in the past, but I'm getting to be these days. And it's definitely having a comeback. Chrome is, so you know how things go in trends. But I think I'll also put these up front. But these are going to do a great job of keeping rocks from flipping back. And the timing couldn't have been better, because before I installed them, we just came back from Caesars Creek, and the front of the Armada, and not to get too graphic, was covered with some type of like roadkill remnants, and to put it ungraphically, and that right there had basically let me know that at some point in time I must have ran over something and kicked it back on the rock guard. So it definitely motivated me to go ahead and get this project done and get those installed. I almost sent them back because I thought they were oversized or too big, but I actually cut the rubber down, and they are very universal in nature in that regard, that you can cut the rubber to the height that you need them off the ground, and I think I put them just enough off the ground that they're not going to rub on something for off-roading or whatever, and they are flexible, but at the same time not too high up where they're not actually doing their job. So, all right. Okay, as I suspected, I didn't think that the hardware that it came with was going to work, so maybe that was a little bit confusing earlier in the video when I said that. What I was referring to was like the length of the hardware. Now, the way that this works, the reason why it won't work is because it's not wide enough for this large track. And the Pioneer track crossbar, it has a really wide berth, and mostly because it's made for hardware that is beefier, because typically this would be used for like mounting maybe like a rooftop tent, something of pretty significant weight, you know, several hundred pounds, probably really almost reaching like the max capacity of the roof rack itself. So this isn't going to work. Obviously, if I put this down there, it's just going to barely grab, and that's just not going to work, right? And I mean, it really would slip out. But like to finish that thought, what I was inspired or encouraged by, I should say, is the height or the length of this bolt. So I'm gonna show you what I am gonna use, which is another Rhino rack product, and also I am a little bit concerned about the diameter of the bolt here. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys what I was talking about by a comparison. So the one on the left is what typically will come with a Rhino rack, and this actually did come with the Pioneer rack. Now I'm having trouble, and I think it's just because this stuff comes from Australia. I actually had wanted to get another one of these full length rails, and I can find the 2-footers, but the full length one that goes all the way across, they're just out of stock everywhere, including E-Trail, and that's where I originally got it from. So the way that this will work is it goes in here and turns, and you can see like those little teeth on there, and then this will tighten down. And I am going to use this rubber washer that they provide to go between the lock rack and actually this mating surface here. So but that is the difference in the width. You can see the difference in the width, and also by design these tighten downward with a nut instead of the bolt actually going through, I forget what that's called. Yeah, I don't remember. But anyways, and it has a lock washer on there, so we'll see how this works out. It is a little bit taller. I think that's a 80s rap song, but anyways, that's a poor reference and bad attempt at comedy. But anyways, sorry. Sometimes in the sun I get a bad sense of humor, but all right, so back on track. The rubber washer, we'll see how that works out. I think that's going to help my case as far as using the rubber washer to make up for this extra height. So we'll see how that goes on there. All right, so it looks like my screws, along with those little metal brackets, are going to work. And I think that is just the, I think those little metal back slots, the actual threaded part, I think that's just what they use like in electrical installations with that track. I'll have to look that up. I'll give you an overlay if that's the case. But I have these spaced at the widest setting, and the reason for that is because the kayaks are like 36 inches wide, and this will only do 42 inches wide. And I'm starting to think this is not going to work, because the reason why I wanted to get these additional crossbars was I was going to stagger these crossbars off the side of the Armada here, because here's my center line, and if I don't, you know, I need basically 6 inches of that adjustment to go to the widest setting. So I'm starting to think like this is not going to be wide enough for these boats, but we'll see if I can get it to work here. One thing though, I know it's not going to work is if I put this bracket in here and it actually extends beyond the middle of this nut here, and if that's the case, yeah, it's definitely not going to work. And also I have these justified off the end a little bit, So the other reason why I needed to get up on the roof was not just to make it easier, because I could have reached over, is you're going to want to look down at the end here. I think I can capture. You're going to want to make sure that those brackets that are threaded actually turn and engage the rail here. So that's the other thing. The only one I can't not verify that with completely, other than just by feel, is this one here on the end, because I have no way to look all the way down there and see. But the good thing is it will be captured by 3 of these bolts, and they do tie in together, so I'm not too worried about that. I could lift up on it. I could take, that's what I'll do. I'll take this one loose and then try lifting up on it. If I can't lift up on it, then it should be good to go. It should be engaged at that point in time. So that's something to consider too, that whenever you're doing these slots like this, you always want to make sure that those little threaded back plates actually turn within the slot, to make sure that it's sideways and not long ways, the way that you insert them into the slot. So all right, so this has been a little bit of a project to get this configured, and I knew it would be, just because of the fact that I'm really doing something outside of what the norm is as far as these Mirage Lynx boats. And I kind of warned you guys about that in the beginning, that this was kind of a unique situation, that we have these boats that are so wide, lightweight, and so there's a lot of advantages to them. Very fast, pretty unique, and the hull is completely different than most kayaks, especially different than Hobie kayaks in the fact of how they're constructed. And they're not like a roto molded product at all. They're more like a fiberglass hull, or a composite hull with a solid core, foam core. So here's getting back to the racks. So I couldn't get the bar as previously discussed. I did end up finding a 4-foot section instead of the 54-inch section. So that's going to double up on this one on the rear, and I will be able to take, so I have that coming. It's going to be another week before he gets here. I will be able to take these out, and if you have a single bar and you have 2 kayaks and you have these butted up against each other in the middle, and maybe you have a narrow enough kayak that it's not really an issue, you're still going to have trouble taking these out and rotating them to that 90-degree position, or just removing them and putting them inside your vehicle, which is my plan when we don't have the kayaks up here, which is going to be very rare. But there is going to be a time, either I want to pull the Armada in the garage to work on it, or something, that we will have to take them down, and we will have to take these bars off of here, because it does add quite a bit of height. And even though I have a 10-foot garage door, I cannot get this in here with it configured the way it is. So this bar, I did drill some new holes, and I went basically an additional 4 inches. I did end up using the original holes on the LockRack, because of the fact that I did end up having to move I did move the bar and then order another bar. Originally I was hoping to use just 1 bar, but that's just impossible, and it just wasn't going to work out very good. So I am going to use 2 bars staggered, just like I've been talking about. The other thing I wanted to tell you guys about these rubber sections is immediately they wanted to come out, and they look like they're in there incorrectly, but they're actually in there the way they're supposed to be. I do have them zip tied, and so I do recommend that. I don't know how it's going to work out, but it's going to be better at least than, hopefully it's going to be better at least than what the design allows for originally, because they really immediately come out. So LockRack definitely needs to do a better job. The product is nice, but in a lot of ways it's kind of reminiscent of like a company that has come up with a product that maybe has not been around all that long, and you know, maybe they have some humble beginnings. I'm not sure the history of the company, but definitely the rubber is something that they need to improve on as far as how to retain that There should be something that retains it better than that. And so the zip ties might be something that you want to consider doing. Coming off the edge here, I'm hoping that I have the ability to put at least 2 holes or 2 clicks in now that I've moved it out that way. And these bars here are actually, if you see, I'm over center, but that's okay because it's actually going to conform up to the boat next to it. So you'll see when I get the other boat up there and what I'm talking about, because I'll make sure to point that out and show you the final installation. But I wanted to show you these zip ties and kind of talk about some of the challenges that I've had so far. All right, just to make sure I do give you a view of what it looks like with just a single boat up there, I'm gonna go ahead and take it now before I forget. It's pretty easy to load. And the reason is because that rubber is very grippy. And so you don't have the worry about the boat sliding off. And also you're loading it onto a flat, unobstructed platform up there. And so it does slide up there and you can control it much better than those other cradle type, like the Rhino rack that I showed you previously. And I'm gonna kind of be shaky here with the camera work as I step down and come around here and kind of show you. So I'm right at the edge of where my mirror is. You know, if I hit something, if I hit the mirror, then yeah, I'll probably end up hitting the boat too. So it looks like I have more holes exposed in the back. Obviously the boat is a different shape. So I will move it over centerline if that index it over, if that is possible, when the other boat is up there. And I'll go back up there because I want to talk about this some more and what I was talking about, because I think a lot of people might miss this concept of what I'm talking about. And I did. It took me a while to kind of figure it out, with the wife out there too, kind of questioning my decision, and for good reason, you know, and wondering why is this so difficult, because you would think that there'd be a way to carry these boats. It's a big boat. They're big boats, and 2 of them, even on a full-size SUV, is a challenge. So you know, keep that in mind, but we are going to make it work. So what I'm talking about here is, so imagine there being another rail behind this rail and behind the one in the front. And because it is angled, you see how it angles down towards that way. Well, it's just going to angle the other direction, and it's just going to sneak its way underneath this other boat. And so I do think I can probably end up moving, indexing, I should say. And that is the beauty of the system, because I can just let a hole out. I don't have to break any bolts or anything. I can just literally index it over by just, you know, letting the hole out on this ratcheting system underneath there. And right now I have like 7 holes exposed, and I'll be able to go probably 8 or 9, and that will allow for these to double up and to bring the boat closer to each other. And as you can see, like, the boat is pretty far away from center line. We got about 2 inches, maybe 2 inches before it is actually going to be center line. And that's the other beauty of this system is before, when I had just those 2 cradles, the boats were actually rubbing each other, which over time that would be absolutely terrible. And what I was using was like a gardening pad, like a kneeling pad. And that was a pain because it didn't go where I wanted to all the time. And once the boat was up there and it was there, I couldn't climb on the SUV very well. I've since ordered a ladder because it's Prime Day deals. So I went ahead and ordered a 12-foot ladder, and also that way I can get on top of the Air.stream. So a telescoping ladder is going to come in handy one of these days if I need to fix a leak or work on the AC unit. So I went ahead and bought that. So I will be able to get up on top here and move around and work on this if I need to, and work on the Air.stream as well. But yeah, so a week from now I'll finish this project up, and we're gonna do some Indian Lake camping, and so you guys will see that video coming out here soon, and be sure to subscribe for that as well. All right, so gonna be a little bit of a fast forward here for a week later here soon. All right, so I have the Airstream hooked up, and we're getting ready to head up to Indian Lake here in Ohio and stay at a place called Brew Camp. And it's a kind of a novel, I hate using that word, but it is appropriate, novel concept that I've not seen before, and that is having a campground that is a brewery as well. So that's, I hope this idea catches on, because that's pretty awesome. Literally, you can leave your camper and go hang out at the brewery, and most of the time those breweries are dog friendly, and this one is definitely as well. So you know, it's just kind of without traffic or anything. You just leave your camper and walk on over. So anyways, we'll be making a video about the brew camp, so you definitely want to be looking for that. But I wanted to show you the straps. So obviously we know that the LockRack, or you should know that with some confidence, that there's a lot of folks that have had success with this without much concern with the LockRack as far as its reliability. But I do want to have just that peace of mind with two additional straps, so that way we just know that if these mounts were to break loose or something catastrophic, or even like a quick deceleration of the vehicle, that this boat is not going to find its way going forward. And it would be unlikely that would occur because of the widest point of the boat being in between these two bars. And that is the idea, is you do want to have the widest part of your boat, so that way it wedges itself in there. But so here's peace of mind. I did use these webbing foldovers basically to go through the front handle of the Hobie, and that way your hook is not up on top of the boat on an angle or digging in. It's just laying nice and flat and then coming down. And then using this Rhino rack, US Rhino rack eyelet that goes into the track there. One key thing that you need to keep in mind is whenever you put these eyelets on, is that you want to tighten them where it's basically going to be in the direction of your pull. So like in the direction that whatever the strap or whatever you have, because if not, they will most likely loosen up, because of the fact that it basically twists it as you're going down the road. The strap will pull on it and loosen it up, so that's never a good thing. And then I put it on the front track, so that way it's not less likely to move on me as well, being in the front track. And then here in the back, not really, anything new here, but one thing that, I thought originally I just put this directly to the rear of the boat, and just put it in the track, like basically parallel, going down. But then I started thinking about it, and if there was a failure of some sort with one of these bars, like they came out or I didn't put them in good enough or something and they left the vehicle, I do want to have basically this strap to have a pulling in effect to the interior bars, which are not going to be removed really much at all, unless we're going to be going into a garage or something like that. That's the only time those bars are going to be removed. So the likelihood of those failing are not good, or least likely. And so, but having this on an angle like this will definitely create a situation where it pulls the boat into this inward bar and keep it from leaving the vehicle as well. So that's something to keep in mind too when you're placing your straps as well. This is extremely solid. I guess I really didn't mention that too much, but it is like when you grab it now, like the boat used to rock a little bit, and it would actually lift off of the cradles a little bit, and that's actually kind of the problem. And the reason why I was motivated to get this LockRack is because it became very evident that it wasn't going to work anymore, because it was actually like oscillating as we were going into the wind that day coming home on this last trip. So, all right, well, the next thing I'm going to show, like I've been saying, is that when we do get the additional hardware to arrive, I'll get the other boat up there and I'll tell you if there's any concerns that arise with that. All right, several days later, we are back to it. And I don't know if I'd mentioned or not, because like I said, it's been several days. I was not able to get a hold of the 54-inch C-Track, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned all that. They discontinued it for some reason, and but what I was able to get a hold of was the 4-foot track, and that was delivered today. And even those are starting to be hard to find. So I would suggest getting those. We did take the boat down, or up that is, to Indian Lake this weekend, the single unit, and it rode extremely well. So I'm happy with the result there. So a little bit of testing done already. These are popping out right here just because I have these pulled back on purpose because I thought I was going to have to access these the bolts here. So I just need to tuck this back in and then put these zip ties back out. I'd pulled them up on purpose. So let me show you sort of what I've been alluding to, but wasn't able to do it all along because I didn't have two pieces of this C-Track on the Pioneer platform. And what I did is I took this front rail here and drilled new holes and put it off to the side there and actually flushed the LockRack up with it, so it's super solid there. And then I actually added another, I had more of the Rhino Rack hardware that I ordered, another 20 pieces. You can order those separately, like the accessory screws with the twist, the rail nuts in there. So I got a pack of those, and of course, you know what I'm talking about is these pieces right here. But then what I did is I measured how far the overhang was, and then took this rail and matched it over there so the overhang matches. Now, I'm not going to talk too much longer because I know this video is already getting long, and I'm really getting close to being done here. But the really where it's going to come into play is when we finally get these overhanging here, and then we get the boats up there and we see how they integrate together, and that's going to be the moment of truth and the success, to be able to put two wide boats with these lock racks side by side on a full-size SUV, and doing it by using two different accessory rails. All right, and just to give you one more look, because I didn't have the other lock bar, the center one in, this is actually looking rearward on the vehicle. Here is both sides, and something to keep in mind as well, because you're going to want your spacing that you have figured out is optimal for clamping down on the boat, as far as the width of the boat and also the balance points. It's going to be different for every type of boat, but it was some consideration for me to basically put these lock bars like where the boat began to narrow, because that's where you want to put it, like it's somewhere not the widest spot of the boat, so that way, even though you have these additional cinch straps to keep it going from fore to aft, you still want to make it in not the widest part of the boat where it's uniform. You want to make it where it narrows, because that's where it's going to keep it from going forward or rearward while it's being clamped. So here is the bars, like I showed you earlier. And to finish that thought, you basically, this side here, the passenger side is going to be rearward of this bar, and that's the same way over here too, so that your spacing is uniform on both sides. So you don't, most people would understand that concept, but just something to consider as you're taking notes. And then, as you can see, they do overlap. And then the beauty of this as well is that I'll be able to take this bar out if I want to take it off the roof. If I had these butted up on the same track next to each other, there would be no way to do that, because they would literally run into each other before I could slide them out of the LockRack base. So yeah, that's the other beauty of this setup. And even if you don't have a really particularly wide boat, you may even want to consider doing it this way, just for that very reason alone, just so that you will still be able to take the lock racks out. Because even a narrow boat, I could see this being an issue. All right, next step is to get the boats up there and then give you some final thoughts. All right, so we have it done, and it worked out great. Final thoughts. The anchors, or the arms, that is, in the middle, those are going to be kind of, permanent, semi-permanent, because obviously you don't take those out to get the boats off of the roof. And I ended up putting those at 8 holes exposed. It's going to be different for your scenario, I get it. So it's not about how many holes it is that, I set it at, but just the idea that the front one has 7 holes that are exposed on those inner brackets. And then the rear, I actually opened it up to 8. And so what I mean by saying all that is the boat is wider, which is pretty obvious. It's wider in the back. So you're gonna wanna contour, basically the mounts as well to the width of your boat. And that'll work out really good for you. It is very solid. And I put these straps, up there, these cinch straps, and they go on super easy. Here in the back, I've shown you these straps before, but I actually changed up a little bit. I actually crisscrossed them in the back. And so it really pulls downward and inward on the rear of the boat, and that just wedges it into those brackets as well. And you can kind of get a view. If I hold it up there for you, you can kind of see how those lock arms work. So super cool system. I'm impressed. Obviously, if you don't see this video, it didn't work out like it should, but everything, I just can't see it not working out at this point in time. I mean, it's been an adventure just to learn how to, what the best setup is for putting these boats up on our Armada and with the Rhino rack, and it's worked out really good. And we have several more trips left this year. This is the end of July, and we still are going to the Lake of the Ozarks, and we're going to anchor down Douglas Lake in Tennessee as well. And we'll be doing videos of those locations as well. And then also we're hitting another location that's just not coming to mind right now. So we have several more trips. Be looking for a video as well for a review on a campground up at Indian Lake that we went to. We also will be making a video for the Max Air unit. We'll be replacing it, the Dometic air vent vent fan. I'll get it right eventually. And because it broke this weekend, which we've been struggling with it since it was new. Both of them. I mean, it's just a junky design, so I'm sure those of you that have them on an Airstream can relate with that. So we're going to be replacing it with the deluxe model of the Max Air that has the remote, and I'm excited about that. So make sure to hit the like button if you did find this video helpful to you or give you some ideas on how to mount your kayaks. And also make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you can see more Airstream content and also campground reviews as we are starting to do more and more of here lately. So thank you very much for watching. Everybody take care and be safe and get out there and have some fun.